little routine with the mat. We have 2 blocks and a strap. So we're going to start out sitting. And if you need a blanket underneath you, you can always take a folded blanket and pop up onto it. Or if you need even more space, you can grab something thicker if you have a big bolster. So we're just starting off in Sukhasana, which is crisscross legs. My hips tend to open up and splay wider, so your crisscross may not look anything like my crisscross. So we'll start by grounding and centering. And we'll use the Ujjayi breath. And this is the sound, it's called victorious breath, but it's the sound of an ocean. So you've probably heard this described a lot, that it's like fogging up a mirror, but with your mouth closed. So first you just test it with your mouth open. Then just try it with your mouth closed, and your throat closes off a little bit, and you should be able to hear and feel the vibration through your head. You can just bring your palms together. Feel the warmth between your palms as it is now. Warm up the hands if they're cold. And then make cup shapes. Place it over the eyes. And then you can slowly, slowly blink the eyes open, letting the light back in. We're going to start today's practice loosening up our shoulders and our other arm joints. So bringing the shoulders up to your ears and rolling them back. And then reverse it. We're just going to stretch one arm over. And as we do this little stretch here, we're not turning with the arm. The arm is coming out and reaching all by itself. You're just holding the upper arm and letting it go and switching. Letting the arms come down. Now we're going to reach up, dropping one arm down and just giving that tricep a good stretch. So you're using your other hand right above the elbow and pulling down. And when you do this, keep in mind that your neck, we're going to switch sides now, that your neck is not pushing forward. My hair is a little bit in the way, but I can get my shoulder back far enough to avoid having my chin come forward. So that might not be the case for you. If your shoulder is really not letting you come forward, then you can just try pressing from here. Come up and let those arms come down. And we're just going to roll out the wrists. Keeping the arms light. Here in New Jersey, we're getting ready for spring. So we'll be seeing a lot of flight animals like butterflies and birds. So you're going to have a lot of wing imagery in your yoga practice. And then you reverse it on the way down. And from here, I'm going to remove the blanket that's under me. If you need to pad your knees, keep the blanket close by. And just rock forward. And reposition yourself into tabletop, which means your wrists and elbows and shoulders are in line. And then your knees and hips are in line. So it's like you're making a square. And then what you have to think about to make this a tabletop is bringing that belly in, and it smooths out your back a little bit. So from here, we're just going to bring in some more hip movement. So we're going to make some circles. You can start off as big or small as you like. You can really start getting the whole body into it. And then reverse. Coming back up to tabletop. If you need to give your wrists a break, you can slide your hips back into child's pose and just roll those wrists out. And then we'll meet back here. So I'm going to start on my left leg. It honestly doesn't matter which leg you start on. I'm going to take this leg and stretch it back and pressing my toes down. So my toes are against the floor in the mat, pressing through the heel, and just pressing through my hands then, getting a nice stretch in the calf muscle. You want to breathe through this, and then you're welcome to try bending the knee just a little bit and still pressing back through that heel because it's a different calf muscle. They're layered on top of each other, but they have different ways of being stretched. And coming back up to tabletop, that leg is still out. You're going to lift it straight back behind you and cross over the opposite side, and you can try, if this is enough of a stretch over here on the side, you can stay here, or you can try looking back at your toes. And if that's still not enough, you can, and you're able to balance, you can cross the arm over just like the legs are. So in my case, it's my left arm crossing the right, my left leg crossing the right leg. And then come back, bring that leg up, and then bring the knee back down to tabletop. And again, you can sit back and just give your wrists a break when you need it. Meet back in tabletop. Now we're going to do the right side. Stretching out, curling the toes into the mat, pressing through the heel. And you can incorporate the Ujjayi breath here. And then invite your knee, if you like, to bend just a little bit while you're still pushing back. And coming back up, straightening the leg. You're going to lift that right leg back behind you, and it's flat like it's pushing against a wall behind you. So you're pressing through the heel. And then crossing it over the left side and looking back at your toes. And then if you feel like you need to, you can cross the arms as well. And lift the leg up, bring the knee back down to the square, and we're going to sit it back now. Now in extended child's pose, or any child's pose, if you have more tissue of any kind up front, it might be more comfortable to have nice wide knees. When you come down into child's pose, you can really reach down to the mat then. And we'll come back into our tabletop. We're not quite done being on our hands and knees yet. So if your knees have started to bother you, you would put a blanket underneath them. This time we're going to bring out that left leg again, lifting it up, and challenge our balance here by raising the opposite arm. And the Ujjayi breath helps with balances a lot because it gives you something to focus on. So while you're doing this balancing cat pose, make sure that your belly is being pulled in, so it's like your navel is being pulled back to your spine. And then come down, hand to the knee. And you can take a full breath in and out. And then stretch out the back foot straight out behind you, hip level, and raise the left arm. And this is a difficult challenge here. It uses a lot of your core. And then you can come back down. So while we're here, let's just move through some cow and cat poses. So for cow, we raise our hips in the back. Belly, even though it's engaged, is moving towards the floor so our chest can come forward. And then we reverse it, tucking the tailbone down, arching through the whole spine, and tucking the chin down. And then you could really incorporate your breath. Going at your own pace. You can inhale in cow, exhale in cat. So before we continue, we're just going to come back a little bit with our hips still off of our legs and rotate our hands so that our fingers are pointing towards us. Then as you continue to bring your hips back, you'll stretch out the wrists even more. And you can come back up and even press the wrists the opposite way. Probably don't need to press down very hard. Mostly gravity doing the work here. Then back to tabletop. Now this time we're going to return to balancing cat and change it to balancing tiger. To do that, we're going to bend the leg so your foot is flat like it's pressing up against the ceiling. We're going to take our elbow and knee, curl in towards each other. So you return to a nice flat back and then curl in. And we did 3 of those. We'll bring that hand and that knee down. Take a nice round of breath in and out. And then switch sides. Curling in and straightening out. Pressing through that heel. And then bringing them down. So now from here, if you want to, you can sit back into child's pose again. As we come up, you're going to keep your arms stretched out because we're going to curl the toes under and lift into downward facing dog. So your heels probably are not touching the floor, and that's okay. So to come forward, we're going to start off by bringing our knees down, flattening our feet, and then chin, chest. Come down, elbows stay really tight. The hips press down into the mat, lifting up through the crown of the head and the chest. Bhujangasana. We're going to reverse this move. And pushing back up, knees are still down, curl the toes, push up into downward facing dog. And one more time, come down, bring the knees down, flatten the feet, elbows stay in, and come up into Cobra. And for this last one, maybe you want to challenge yourself and take it a little further. So up onto the knees, curl the toes, downward facing dog. Press through your palm of your hands, especially through the thumb and the first finger. And as you come forward, maybe you want to keep your knees up and stay in plank. Lower down gently. Flatten the feet. And maybe your cobra comes up a little bit higher. We're going to bend and come back through tabletop. Curl the feet, downward dog, and walk forward. So now we have nice soft knees here on our forward fold, Uttanasana. And since our hands and wrists did so much work, we're just going to let them hang. Maybe you want to hold on to elbows here. And with soft knees, tucking the tailbone down, fixing any wardrobe issues, coming back up to standing, and raising the arms up. Deep breath in, and Anjali Mudra. Deep breath in. Now you're going to interlace the fingers, pressing out. Another wrist stretch. Raising them up if your shoulders allow. We're just going to take gentle sways here called swaying palm tree. Last time, coming up. Returning the hands, palms together, and back to the heart center, Anjali Mudra. And here's a little trick, just to save in being awkward. My strap is at the front of my mat, so as I prepare for my forward fold, I'm going to come through heart center. You can swan dive if you like, then just reach for that strap so it's nearby. And roll back up. And take the arms back up, holding your strap if you need it. Now you might not. Just going to let it go, bring the arms down, and clasping your hands behind your back. So if you don't need a strap for this, then that's great. I find my shoulders are a little too tight still. So I just have the strap so there's some space. Then widening your stance, soft knees, start to lean forward, pressing your knuckles back along the backside of your body. And when you're ready, you can lift up into standing still. Bend the knees, bringing the hands back down, chest comes up. You can release that strap. And we'll return back. I only turned for the sake of you being able to see the posture. We'll return back to mountain pose or Tadasana. You can have your palms forward or just resting comfortably at your side. We're going to move through a warrior sequence. First we're going to do warrior 1, and I want to do this one separately from warrior 2 because I want to show you just how simple an adjustment can be. So now my hips, my outside hips, as opposed to these pointy protrusions, are in line with my feet. It's a wide enough stance for me. You might want to adjust, maybe you need to come in closer or figure out what is a good stance for you. Because we're going to stand nice and tall like mountain pose. You can bring your hands to your hips here, shifting the weight over into the left foot, raising the right foot off the floor, taking a big step back, staying up on the toes. And if this is uncomfortable and too difficult, you're welcome to come down to the knee, putting a blanket under it if you need it, flattening the foot. So whether you're down on a knee or standing, you want to have that tailbone moving down, belly's engaged. And now there's a lot of options for the hands here. You could keep them here if they're comfortable. You can make cactus arms and really get a nice arch in the back, pressing the chest up high, or you can raise the hands up. And you want to have your pinkies moving in so that you're getting a good rotation of your arms here. And another option, of course, would be to reverse prayer, sort of like we did before with seal, having the hands clasped and moving down your backside. So whichever way your hands are, bring them back to your hips, and we're going to come forward. So if you were down on your knee, you can just come forward into Uttanasana as well. Relaxing the head, gently coming up, raising the arms, and returning to heart center. So we will bring our hands back to our hips, begin shifting the weight to the right side. Lifting up the heel of the left, checking in with our posture, making sure we're nice and elongated and strong here. And that your stance is wide enough, so when you slide that leg back, up on your toes, you can balance, because if you're too close together, you might be wobbly. So, figure out where in your stance is good for you, and if this is too wide, bring that back foot forward. And again, the option to put your knee down, flatten the foot. Maybe you want to do cactus arms here again, pressing the chest out, bringing those shoulder blades together like wings, or lifting up. And returning your hands to your hips. We're going to come back forward to Uttanasana. And then rise up. I'm just adjusting my blocks before I get there. And really let it out. That was Warrior 1. I'm going to move into Warrior 2, or Virabhadrasana 2, sometimes called Side Warrior. So for this pose, your feet will stay in line with each other. So it's, to start out with, you want to have them close together. Hands to hips, stepping back, maybe not as far, and you're going to turn so your back foot is completely different than your front foot. So these toes are pointing to the front of my mat, and these toes are pointing to the side of my mat. Now at this point, the rest of my body is also going to go to the side. So for me, I'm just going to widen my stance to be more comfortable. And you want to keep this knee above the ankle. You should be able to see your big toe. When you're ready, if your shoulders allow, you're going to release the arms at shoulder height, looking over the front hand. Keeping that tailbone moving down and that belly button pulling into spine. So from here, we're going to move into triangle, and that's why I got the blocks. I'm going to straighten through the front leg, shifting so that this back hip is moving back, and I'm going to turn like a clock dial. And for me, I like to have the block there. So in triangle pose or trikonasana, a lot of people are worried about getting their hand to the floor, and that means they look like this. It's not about getting your hand to the floor. It's about opening up this way and keeping the chest opening, the shoulder moving back, and the arms in line. So now you want to windmill down. I'm going to turn so that both legs are in the same direction now. And we're just going to have our hands down in center. And you might want to move your hands as you shift the weight from side to side. So you bend one knee, then come up to center, bend the other knee. And this time, when you're on the back leg at this point, you're going to stay there because we're going to do the same postures, just getting there in a different way. So now our front will actually be what was our back foot before. So turning that foot, straightening through that leg, but you're going to push up, open up like you're unrolling here. Unrolling that hip, getting that arm up like a clock. And that's just another way to get into triangle pose. And you can bend through the front leg, come back up, and now you're in Warrior Two facing the other direction. So we're going to come back around by straightening that leg, pushing that hip back, reaching and windmilling down, bringing that arm down, rotating the foot, coming back to wide-legged fold. And if you need blocks here, that's fine too. We'll shift weight from side to side. And then we'll return to that side that was the front before, turning those toes, so now they're at the top, facing the top. Your other toes are still facing the long side. Unrolling, and back into triangle, then bending through the knee, pressing back up, coming back, facing the side completely in 5-pointed star. Turn the feet back towards the top of the mat and step forward. Now we have to do the same thing over again, leading with the other side. So This time we're going to start, again, feet are close together, stepping back, maybe not as far as Warrior One. This is Virabhadrasana 2. So the back toes are now facing the long side of the mat. Front toes are facing the front of the mat. The hips, the whole torso, everything else is facing the side. Maybe you have to keep an eye or keep consciousness on that front leg, keeping that knee opening up. And then you can bring your arms out. Checking down, making sure you can see your big toe. Then you want to press through that hip as you straighten the leg, so the hip is shooting towards the back. Come down into Trikonasana. Windmill down. Bring the front foot into the same direction as the back foot. And we'll shift from side to side. And then when you get to that back foot, we're going to rotate that foot so the toes are at the short end. Fixing your blocks if you know you're going to need to. And then windmilling up into triangle pose. Your gaze can always look down if you feel unsteady. It just depends on what you like. And bending through that knee, coming up and looking over that hand now, which is the left. Bringing the toes to face the same side into five-pointed star. And we're going to shift again. So now these toes, the right toes, are facing the front of the mat. Bending the front knee into Virabhadrasana 2. Then pushing that hip back, windmilling into triangle. Then you can bring the arm forward, rotating the back foot, bringing it forward. And working your way back up to Tadasana Mountain Pose. I'm just going to take a step back so I don't hit my ceiling. We'll raise the arms up, and this time we're going to move through heart center, coming forward, bending through those knees because we're going to move into gorilla pose. So I was inspired to do this because of the movie Black Panther with the M'Baku and his tribe. Hanumasana is a split, and I can't do splits. So instead, I like going to gorilla pose as sort of an homage to M'Baku. So you lift up onto the heel, if you can, and step onto the palm of your hand. So your knees are bent here. You can relax your neck and head down, and then lift up with your hips as much as you want. And make sure that you're not straining through the shoulders. They're nice and relaxed. They're not hunched up into your ears. So then you can release. Say thank you, Jabari tribe. And then come back up. And return to heart center. Raising the arms up, we're going to move into Uttanasana again. But this time, we're going to plant the arms down to step back into downward facing dog. So if you normally use blocks for Uttanasana, we're not going to use them. Just bend your legs. and step back into downward dog. And if your blocks are in your way, you can just move them to the side. So you can even try and see what the difference feels like with a deep bend in your knees here while you're lifting your hips up, because it feels quite different. And then straighten through the legs as your heels aim towards the floor. Now, since I'm a little bit short on space here, I'm going to move over to one side of my mat. Lifting up my left leg, I'm going to reach it straight behind me. Then bending the leg, opening up the hip. Still pressing through the arms. And then if you want to go into wild thing, by all means you can. You would bring that foot all the way down and rotate your upper body. And then come back. And bring that leg down. Bringing that same leg, left leg up. I'm going to swing it forward to the outside of my arms and come into lizard pose. So for me, I like to bring my back knee down. You don't have to. And get my forearms down this way. And this is a big hip opener. And then we rise back up to our hands. Raise that back leg up. Step back into downward dog. I'm going to move slightly to the other side of my mat. Raising the right leg up, pressing through the hands still. Bending the back knee. Really opening the hip. And then can continue to wild thing. Come back. Raise that leg up and bring it down. Raise that same leg back up. And then bring it forward to the outside of your hands. Again, I'm going to bring my back knee down. And try to line my shoulders and my knee up. So I had a little technical difficulty there. So from lizard pose, press back through the hands, lift the back leg if you have the knee down. And instead of moving to downward dog, we're just going to come into plank. And then bring the knees down and return to child's pose. Nice wide knee. Oh, let it down. Oh. You guys didn't see that, but it scared the hell out of the cat that was sleeping. Sorry, Gus. So from here, we're gonna come up, keep a nice wide leg, and bringing your feet out. So I'm able to get about the width of my mat, and your feet are flat if you can get them there. So not the bottoms of your feet, the sides of your feet and your ankles are pressing into the floor. And this is frog pose, Adho Mukha Buddha Mandukasana, which is where the yoga mat company Manduka gets their name. So you can stay here, or you can lower down. And it's yet another big hip opener. And when you're ready, and press back through the hands. I'm just going to roll back like this, back like a child's pose, and then crossing at the ankles, rolling, and it gets you right onto your backside. So from here, we're going to place our hands, fingers facing towards you. You can have them out at this point in the practice because we've done a lot of work with the wrists. And just dropping the knees from side to side, windshield wiper legs. And it might even feel really good at this point if you want to lie all the way back, bring your knees to chest, and do this same kind of movement. So from here, since my space is a little bit awkward for filming purposes, I'm going to turn to the side, sort of in a corner, catty corner, and just allow yourself to come down and have a big wall-to-wall stretch. You can stretch the pressing through the opposite hand and foot, and then bringing the knees in. I'm going to lift one leg up. So for me, it's the right leg. I'm going to cross my right ankle over my left knee and bring that knee up. And this is a version of pigeon. So you don't have to thread through, but you can, and bring that in even closer to feel the stretch. And then release that foot down, take that leg up, take it down, switching to the left side, taking that ankle over the knee, lifting the right leg up, reaching through around the thigh. But you want to keep your shoulders nice and relaxed here. You can, once you're set up, lift your shoulders and head if you feel like you want to. But if we're heading towards relaxation, I think it's perfectly fine to just let the legs do all the work here. And then release that, bring that left leg up to the ceiling, bring it down to meet the other leg. Maybe you want to continue into twists or windshield wipers some more. And then you are all ready for your Shavasana, which is either, Shavasana itself is a pose, or whatever you prefer for your final relaxation. So for me, I'm just going to come upright in order to show gratitude to you for sticking through all of this in my first full-length mat video. And hopefully the kitty cats didn't get too disturbed. So from my heart to yours, namaste.